Coming up on today's episode, streaming Vudu's high def on a Blu-ray player? How does LG's new service stack up? BlueCon, baby, we're going top 5 tips for buying an HDTV and a big stack of Blu-ray picks along with the releases for the week of November 3rd, 2009. This is HD Nation.
HD Nation.
Today's episode is brought to you by Netflix, Squarespace, and GoDaddy.com.
Welcome to HD Nation. I'm Robert Herron.
And I'm Patrick Norton. HD Nation is your guide to the best in HD content and the best in home theater gear, no matter what your budget is. Blu-ray, online, satellite, cable, over-the-air, hard drives, thumb drives. If it's HD, we like it. And actually, we've got something from the news department in the news we never expected to see.
Yes, and what would that be?
That would be Netflix coming to the PS3. I thought the Xbox 360 had Netflix screaming on consoles, hey, it's Halloween, locked down, but it turns out, according to Netflix PS3 FAQ, the PS3 is getting Netflix streaming video later this year. It's a little, you had the details on how this works. It's a little squirrely.
There's a few parts to it. One, of course, you're going to need your PlayStation 3 connected to a broadband internet connection, which I think most are.
Seems obvious.
Also, you're going to need the Netflix Instant Streaming Disc.
The what?
The Netflix Instant Streaming Disc. It's actually the disc you're going to need every time you want to watch Netflix streaming content on your PlayStation 3.
It sounds kind of weird.
You're going to need that Netflix Unlimited streaming plan, too, or the unlimited membership plan, so that you can receive that basically incorporates your streaming. So unless you have an unlimited plan, if you're getting that one disc at a time plan, then you're going to cut it. You got to upgrade just one.
It's time.
And Netflix is saying that the instant streaming disc will be available later this year. They don't have a hard date for it yet. So
weird.
I put in my order for it. You just basically can go to the Netflix site /PS3, and if you're a member, you just say, hey, I want that disc, and they'll mail it to you as soon as it becomes available.
It's so odd that you're going to have to load a disc to play a disc. I wonder if that's like a technical kludge or a legal kludge.
I want to say it's legal.
Yeah.
Either hopefully they'll have time to eventually just incorporate that right into maybe the next firmware update for the PlayStation platform. Maybe.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
In what seems to be Sony week on the news front, Sony has licensed Vizio's digital TV patent portfolio. Vizio did a big press release on it, and it also turns out that Vizio is now a licensee under Sony's color television patent portfolio, having, quote, successfully resolved its ongoing patent disputes with Sony, unquote. I noticed that the whole Vizio licensing Sony's patents part was buried in the 4th paragraph of Vizio's press release. It sounds like a classic patent swamp to avoid continuing litigation. At some point, the lawyers must be like, okay, nobody's winning here. Let's do something.
Somebody who's counting the beans basically goes, you know what, we're paying the lawyers an awful lot, and this is no end in sight, so let's stop right here.
The lawyers could be suing consumers. Why are they suing other manufacturers? I'm kidding, Sony.
It's good to be a lawyer.
Yeah, in any case, just keep bringing out amazing television. Sony has got actually some of the best deals, and that's 40, 42-inch sweet spot. Vizio, #1 retailer of HDTVs in the U.S., both delivering a bunch of fine products.
Ooh, yeah.
Listen up, people. We're going to L.A. next week.
Road trip.
Road trip, Beverly Hills. Matter of fact, we'll be in the very building where Hunter S. Thompson started Fear and Loathing. Yes, people, it's BlueCon 2.0, the industry convention for Blu-ray. We'll have the keynote from Martin Scorsese. Best Buy's Mike Fratelli has a lot to say about how everybody in America consumes HD, and we'll have panels just about every studio head in Hollywood, info of Blu-ray 3D, and quite a bit more.
Nice.
We're going to be shooting an entire episode of HD Nation from the show floor at BlueCon 2.0. You can check more, actually. If you want to learn more about what's going on, blue-con.com is the place to go to find out where we're going to be and what we're going to see while we're there. All right, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Netflix.
Hey, if you're looking for a place to find a great selection of Blu-ray discs, look no further than Netflix. With Netflix, you can rent over 90,000 titles online, including lots of Blu-ray titles with free shipping both ways to your home. They also have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen in just one business day. Plans start from $4.99. As a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week free trial membership. Check it out at www.netflix.com/HDNation. Remember to type the www when using this code, please.
After a completely unhinged 3-way battle royale between Serafina, Roger, and I over the top 5 Westerns on Blu-ray,
I just watched and laughed as this mess went down.
Yeah, well, I found myself in a store, it would be Best Buy, with a stack of 18 possible Westerns to put on the top 5 list, because we had to look at them and inspect them, and What? Probably.
You were in Best Buy?
Yeah.
So that's what, only $500 in Blu-ray discs before the 9.2% sales tax here.
Go Cali. And suddenly I changed the list to top 5 discs I bought while nobody was looking, rather than risking the wrath of Serafina and Roger by going with my top 5 westerns I could find in HD in Best Buy.
Okay, that's enough backstory on this list.
Right, well, they didn't actually have Casablanca in stock, which I really want to get. Well, they had it, but they only had like the $742 special collector's edition, which is the same Delete Expletive Blu-ray, but with a lot of stuff around it. And this would only be like my 4th copy of that, from VHS to DVD to a better DVD transfer. And I resisted buying, well, the Blu-ray copy of Generation Kill. It's HBO's most excellent miniseries about a group of Marines from the 1st Recon Battalion in the first 40 days of the Iraq War.
List! I want the list, please. Stop this.
Number 1! In delicious confections we cannot resist, Speed Racer. Too long, sure. Too many subplots, sure. But it's fun. It's visually fun. And if you've seen it on satellite, you know the frenetic race scenes at the end are completely destroyed by compression artifacts. They are wrecked. The Blu-ray looks magnificent. It is a gorgeous 1080p VC1 transfer. The 5.1 soundtrack isn't bad, though some critics feel it does not live up to the intensity of the video. But you know what? It ain't bad at all. Number 2 on my list, Hot Fuzz.
Best name ever.
Oh my goodness. Hot Fuzz with 2 Z's. The dynamic duo from Shaun of the Dead, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are together again with the ultimate send-up of buddy-buddy cop films. Plus it features tons of Brits with guns, which is always hysterical. Excellent transfer, lots of good detail, great soundtrack, and the movie is incredibly funny. It is criminally sad how little money this made compared to some of the worst comedies of ever. Yeah, remember the Spartans? Don't even get me started. We're just going to move on. 310 to Yuma, the classic 1957 original, is not on Blu-ray yet, but I enjoyed the 2007 remake. Bale and Crow do great work. Ben Foster is an awesome bad guy and very, very stylish. He's a good-looking bad man.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
The clothes and anyhow.
Clothes make the bad guy.
They do. It is stylish as all hell, and if you're not blind, you get to watch Alan Tudyk, whose name I cannot usually say, but whose work I've always enjoyed. On a side note, Lionsgate, what's with the 7 forced trailers before I can watch the disc? Give up, people. Let me watch the movie I paid for. Overall, good quality transfer, though there is some haloing from edge enhancement, or maybe noise reduction, hard to tell. Very good colors, overall, sharp, detailed, a delicious watch. The Kingdom, every time it comes on cable, I cannot stop watching it. Jamie Foxx, awesome. Jennifer Garner, awesome. Jaden Basin, awesome. And in a nice turn, Chris Cooper actually gets to play someone likable. He's played like some of the worst heavies in movies. I need to read up on my Chris Cooper. Yeah, look at the list. And you'll be like, oh, I hated him in that movie. And I hated him in that movie because he's just that hateable when he acts well. Anyhow, the opening credits are an awesome college frosh introduction to the rise of oil in the Middle East. Explosions pop off the screen, and the detail in the transfer is awesome. It's pretty much the same one used for the HD DVD, but encoded in 1080p AVC MPEG-4. Ratatouille. I love this movie in the theater. I love it on DVD. This is another benchmark transfer from Pixar, 1080p AVC MPEG-4, gorgeous, and the PCM 5.1 soundtrack is perfection. It's like Sinatra. It is just luscious. I'm going to say luscious no more times today. I
have to agree, though. Animation on Blu-ray is one of the finest visual treats you can give yourself. So
Pixar animation, a lot of the Disney stuff, not everyone pays as much attention as they do to the transfers.
Totally.
The Pixar stuff is phenomenal, though. Look, there's a full dose of extras, all in 1080p. Look for the deleted scenes, Rest in Peace Graveyard, and search online for the hidden Easter eggs in Ratatouille. They are all over the place. Actually, I guess they're mostly all in one place, but there's a good pile of them. Good. Shark Week. I'm a surfer. I don't like sharks. My wife, a diver, loves sharks, shark movies, diving with sharks, video of sharks eating things like surfers. So I'm hoping Shark Week, the Great Bites collection, distracts her long enough for me to slide the rest of this list into the house without her noticing. It suffers, really, from having 6 hours of 1080i video stuffed into a single BD50. Could you have maybe spread it out over a couple more discs, a little less compression? But it's probably going to look a hell of a lot better than what you saw watching those shows on cable. And I think that's the list, man.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. What's on the new release list?
The new releases for November 3rd, 2009 are Aliens in the Attic, The Answer Man, Food Incorporated, Forrest Gump, which is also available in a chocolate box gift set, 1998's Godzilla, G.I. Joe, The Rise of the Cobra, Howard's End, Criterion Collection, alert, alert, I Love You, Beth Cooper, It's a Wonderful Life, Love Actually, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, the 20th Anniversary Collector's Edition, Woo! The Narrows, North by Northwest, Rocky, The Undisputed Collection, Say Anything, The Taking of Pelham 123, two girls and a guy. Watchmen, the ultimate cut, a 4-disc package, which includes both the director's cut, a digital copy of the theatrical cut, as well as over 3 hours of special features. Wings of Desire, yet another Criterion collection, and that's it.
That's actually a pretty impressive list of discs.
Nice.
Some good movies on that list.
Saw most of G.I. Joe Rise of the Cobra.
Really?
Yeah, it is so CG'd, the action. It really takes you out of the moment. I mean, I don't mind some good CG work, but when every action sequence is just obviously computer generated.
Was it more of a movie or was it more of a toy sales vehicle?
If you're a kid, you're gonna love a lot of what you see. I'd want dolls of everything on there. I'm pretty sure little vehicles and the
Those
cool
are, action figures. Oh, they're not dolls,
yes,
man.
collectible figurines. So I've heard.
Oh boy. Coming up next, we're going to talk about, well, streaming Vudu through a Blu-ray player from LG and just exactly how that LG player stacks up compared to the other Blu-ray players we've talked about. But first, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Squarespace. Here to tell us more is our PA, Kaylee.
Hello, Kaylee the intern here to tell you about Squarespace. Did you know that most employers will do a Google search on their job candidates before hiring? That goes for interns too. Now, before getting my internship here at Revision 3, I wanted something out there online that would represent me in a professional way. That's where Squarespace came in. Now, there were a few music blogs out there that really caught my eye with their clean, colorful, yet sort of minimalist design, and I wanted to model my site after them. After buying KayleeEmerson.com, I started by picking one of Squarespace's designer templates and adjusting the layout, block positioning, colors, and more until I was happy with what I had on screen. Then, after some feedback from my Twitter followers, I had a beautiful finished product in a little corner of the internet I was proud to call my own. I didn't have to do any of the coding, Squarespace handled all the back work. Now, I built my site from scratch, but if you already have a blog or website somewhere else, you can use Squarespace's shiny new blog importer tool. Right now, it's the only thing out there like it. It will bring over all of your WordPress, Blogger, TypePad, and movable type posts and pages over to Squarespace with just one click. It will also migrate all of your comments, tags, authors, media, and search engine optimizations so you won't lose your Google page rank. And for all you HD Nation fans, use the code HDNation to get 10% off of your entire account for life. That leaves you with pretty much no excuse to keep putting off building your own website. So go to squarespace.com and use the code HDNation now.
We've mentioned Blockbuster On Demand and Amazon Video On Demand widgets being made available for some select Samsung HD TVs.
So we've got LG's excellent BD390 Blu-ray player, which has added the ability to stream high-def movies from Vudu. Vudu's still, but Vudu, you remember Vudu.com, set-top box, right?
VUDU.
VUDU. They're still supporting their set-top boxing, but the business model looks like integration into other CE boxes like LG's Blu-ray players, some LG and Mitsubishi HD TVs is the future. Now, before we talk about the Vudu streaming, how does the BD390 stack up as a Blu-ray player?
One of the very best I've ever tested. It's the fastest Blu-ray player I've ever, in terms of disc loading times, menu performance, things like that. It has integrated Wi-Fi. Except for the PlayStation 3, there is not another Blu-ray player out there yet still that has integrated Wi-Fi. And overall, it's just it also does your multimedia streaming of your network files too. So if you have a NAS device full of content, including some pretty esoteric file formats as well, you can stream that directly to this player. It decodes it and puts it right up on the screen. This is up there with the best of them.
I kind of wish actually I'd bought this instead of the Sony one I have, although the Sony one I have is awesome.
It's a lot less expensive, the one you picked up too.
Yeah, is this $390 street or is that the
It
MSRP?
used to be $399, so it may have come down a little bit since then, but I think it's loaded, so I expect a premium price out of that one.
It is actually, if you are thinking about buying a set-top box and you have not yet bought a Blu-ray player, or if you have one of the earliest Blu-ray players and you're starting to think it's a little slow and long in the tooth, this is an excellent option because of all the streaming media options, which also include Netflix, and well, it's just awesome. Now, if you're not familiar with Vudu, it's all streaming movies online. They've got a catalog around 16,000 titles, most of them in SD, about 2,200 HD titles, and also titles in HDX. That's Vudu's streaming 1080p format. You need at least a megabit downstream for SD, 2 to 3 is optimal, 2 to 3 megabits is optimal for standard def, 2.25 megabits per second for 720p HD, 3 to 5 is optimal. That puts it on par with pretty much all of the streaming services out there. HDX though looks phenomenal. We're talking 1080p quality. It requires a healthy, and I say healthy, 4.5 megabits per second downstream. 6 to 10 is optimal, so a big fat cable pipe. One nice thing about Vudu, they offer streaming Dolby 5.1, so if you're basically downloading or streaming a movie, you don't have to settle for a stereo soundtrack. Vudu says most of their new DVD titles show up on the release with the DVD. They've got trailers in HD, Rotten Tomatoes ratings are in place for every title, and the interface is pretty clean. The performance actually is really amazing. First of all, this is an HDX title. It's the Watchmen, and although I can't hit the play button, watch as this explosion kicks up. It looks awesome, and it's shocking to see something with this much motion actually look good on a compressed stream. Sorry, I should have fast forwarded a little bit farther than that. There's our explosion. And we're like 3 feet away from it on a 1080p screen, and it's actually pretty healthy. Now, in terms of if I want to scan forward, I can fast forward, which is pretty slick. Hit play, it's going to cue almost immediately if I hold the remote control on the side of the TV where I can actually get the old IR action going on there. And I can skip chapters forward and back. And like I mentioned, the interface is actually pretty nice. One of the things that Vudu did is rather than relying on manufacturers, hardware manufacturers, to choose, like, here's an API, go design an interface. As you're fond of pointing out, hardware manufacturers on the interfaces,
it's the Netflix effect. It's a little different on every platform you look at, like the Xbox 360 or most Blu-ray players, or integrated into a television set. It's a little different no matter where you go, and it's nice having a unified interface across the line, so no matter where you experience Vudu on whatever platform, it should look the same.
So they're actually pushing this, basically they're pushing the whole system down from Vudu rather than the individual hardware vendor waiting for them. So there's the Rotten Tomato meter inside of there, the Vudu community can vote on it, and there's kind of like a built-in IMDb, so I can go to cast and crew.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and basically start poking around and looking at whatever, let's say Billy Crudup, and I should go into a list of Billy Crudup movies. Oh, MI3, Stage Beauty, Big Fish, Charlotte Gray. He's made some amazing movies. So let's cue up a movie real quick. Charlotte Gray, World War II movie with the fabulous Cate Blanchett. Now it's going to cue on to buy, but if I scroll over one more time, we have HD and SD. Unfortunately, not the fabulous HDX, which is really amazing looking.
I noticed also in the interface it allowed you, at least with the HDX title, it allowed you to select the other formats too if you want to compare them side by side. So if you want to compare the HDX to the HD to the SD, you can sit there and go through them all and see what you like. Well, stick with HD.
But this is the HD. Whoops. Yes, I want to rent it. Come on. That was actually basically rolling.
Press accounts are great. You can just go through and go willy-nilly there for a while.
That's actually something we should point out, right? The Vudu is an a la carte system. There's no flat monthly fee. So you can actually manage to charge yourself up a pretty, if you know what I mean, a bored weekend, a sick child, a bunch of downtime. Just watch yourself, because you can actually rack up a pretty good sized bill if you're not careful.
You get a call from the credit card company, sir, you have a lot of charges this weekend.
But I mean, this is the standard HD version. The stuff I've seen is really good. We're going to come into the
Looks like about
Lavender
720p-ish, I would say.
It's 720p-ish, which puts it online with most of the other streaming services. The HDX stuff, though, looks amazing, and of course, it costs a little bit more, right? If I go back to that whole menu and return.
HDX looked pretty phenomenal. Everyone thought here in the studio that it was a Blu-ray movie playing, that we had Watchmen playing a little bit earlier, and I have to say the quality was pretty good. And this is a 55-inch screen we're looking at it on, so the softness and the detail was pretty epic. Another thing you showed off too is this thing has an overscan control built right into it. So if you're stuck on a TV, like a rear projection TV, that has about 5% overscan, meaning that the edge of the picture is scaled off the screen a little bit, just to hide the edges, well, you can actually do correction within the player software, which is really nice. I like that.
So, I'd say we both give it a thumbs up.
For the ease of use, heck yeah. Just beware the billing. It's easy to go crazy.
$399 SD, $499 HD, $599 HDX. So
Make
the
it easy
bigger
to
the
click.
download, the more money you're spending.
Yes.
All right, other streaming media news.
Roku made some announcements this week. Soon you'll be able to watch the whole Revision 3 lineup, including HD Nation, on the Roku digital video player. Even if that weren't the case, we'd still be curious about the new $130 Roku XR. Take away the reset button and drop in a USB port on the back, and it looks just like the new Roku HD digital video player.
Well, I should say the old Roku HD digital player.
Oh, okay, but
yeah, the little square box looks familiar. It's the Netflix video streaming player. They're adding a whole bunch of new services. The XR, though, adds 802.11n, which is nice.
Integrated wireless.
Yeah, so B&G on the original one, N on the XR, and also the USB port. It is for future use. What might one use a USB port for?
Mass storage devices. Maybe.
That's pretty much it. The regular Roku HD with 802.11b and G and no USB port will stay $99. A new standard def only box, the Roku SD, Roku SD, I could say it, but I really don't care because it's SD only, will sell for $80.
Dang straight.
Yeah, and
good deal.
We're going to be on here shortly.
Even better.
So we're a little excited about that.
I am.
Shall we take a moment to thank one of our sponsors?
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, GoDaddy.com. Get reliable, secure web hosting without a long-term contract. GoDaddy's hosting plans are bigger and better than ever with 99% uptime, free 24/7 support, and no annual commitment. Keep your personal information away from spammers, hackers, and your crazy ex-roommate. Private domain registration from GoDaddy.com protects your privacy by keeping your address, phone number, and more out of the public databases. Plus, you can get a discount. Just use the code HDN1 to get 10% off your entire order. Some restrictions do apply. See the site for details. And make sure you check out revision3.com/GoDaddy for all the HD Nation GoDaddy deals and codes. Find the one that works best for you, and please get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com using an HDN code, and you'll help keep HD Nation rolling. One last question before we go. Josiah asked, what would be the top 10 or 5 things to look for when buying an HDTV or projector? Stuff like static contrast ratio, for example, that kind of thing. Is the list the same for LCDs and plasmas? Thanks, Josiah.
Sure thing. Generally speaking, my list of stuff would be applicable to all HDTVs. And I'd say number one at the top of my list, I want a television that can eliminate overscan, that unnecessary stretching of the video material beyond the border of the screen, the active screen itself. All rear projection TVs do this, and many flat panel TVs, especially the older ones,
when
used to do
this, they actually are set to overscan from the factory.
By default. And
so part of your movie, that beautiful Blu-ray you paid all that money for, is over here when it really should be over here.
Literally with a full screen 1080p video on a 1080p TV, if you're overscanning by about 5%, say, or 6%, you're losing about 125,000 pixels roughly, and it softens picture detail, and it's just unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah, so no matter what TV you buy, make sure that you can see the whole picture, is really what I'm saying.
You may have to download the manual online to figure that out, by the way.
Go into the picture size settings and see, it's different for every manufacturer, you're right. Get the manual. Number two would be a room light sensor. I've come to appreciate these little things on the front of the TV that will look at the room and go, you know what, you're in a really bright environment, I'm going to turn it up, and you're in a really dark environment, I'm going to turn it down in terms of the backlight setting or the overall brightness of the picture. It saves money in terms of minimizing electricity use, and it also saves your eyesight by not having too bright of a picture in a dark room. Number three, I would have at least one set of custom picture controls for each input. 2 or more would be better, in my opinion. Now, I'm thinking really you can create one for, say, daytime or nighttime viewing if you really want to get convoluted, but having at least one set of custom controls for each input on the TV is critical.
So one for my cable connection or satellite connection, one for my Blu-ray player, one for my Xbox, one for my PS3, one for my...
Totally.
Really?
Whatever you have. Ideally, all of these devices would be providing perfect output that matches the spec that's been defined, but if that's not the case, you can go through and tweak each one individually. Remember back in the old days, you could plug everything into your TV, but you only had one set of picture controls. So if your DVD player was doing something different from your cable box,
you had to manually go through and...
Yeah, you either got to split the difference or just go with whatever device you're going to be using more often.
Okay.
And that was always there. Picture contrast, yes, that's always important, and it means basically a TV that can produce a very dark black. That is really what contrast is describing. How black is black? And for me, it really comes down to letterbox movies. When I'm watching a letterbox movie in a dark room, I don't want to see a glowing gray bar. I want to see it. I don't want to see any light at all. Right. I don't want to notice it from the edge of the screen. It should be as black as the black frame on a TV if the TV has a black frame. That's really what that means.
I'm with you.
Now, accurate color setup would be my number 5, or at least provide the darn controls to make it so I can produce accurate color. Specifically, I want a white balance setting, and that means I should be able to go in and adjust the white balance. If there's too much green, my grays are a little green, and because that can affect all color representation on the screen. It's really, if you want to have your TV professionally calibrated, it really needs to have that set of controls.
So you're not talking about like light temperature, 4,000, 5,000 Kelvin. You're talking about actually manipulating the white balance.
Getting color temperature, getting that to the spec you need, but being able to manipulate the color of gray.
Got it.
And particularly, it can be noticeable in very dark scenes, like most LCD panels will produce a little too much blue in the dark scenes, and it's nice to be able to tweak that out. I noticed that I can think of one brand of TV off the top of my head where their grayscale tends to have a slight greenish tint to it on every one they do. Green happens to pop more; it produces more light, so that's why they do that. But at the same point, when I look at blonde hair or sand or
it looks wrong.
Any skin tone, and it looks a little sickly. Now, I have a whole list here. I can keep going.
Like the human scene, like the real world scenes in the Matrix.
That's true. Exactly. Now, a few others I'll just throw out there. Number 6, I like a swivel base. If you're not going to wall mount a TV, it's nice to have a base on the set that you can just twist it left or right to get the picture pointed right where you want it. Now, he also mentioned projectors. And for front projectors, what I really want is a vertical and horizontal lens shift. If you use something called digital keystone correction, where you just point the projector up and you got a trapezoid up on the wall, well, I'm going to use the digital correction to just straighten that out. It turns out that even enabling one level of that digital keystone correction will nuke about half the effective picture resolution, and it doesn't get any better after that. You should never use digital keystone correction on a front projector. Have a lens shift if you can't mount it in the right place.
Good to know.
Decent remote control. I love large legible buttons. I want a backlight that is backlit, or I want a keypad that's backlit. And I also appreciate snappy menu performance. When I hit a button or I'm scrolling through a big menu, I like to just move.
I want to go to the other setting. 3, 2, 1, and switch. No, the other setting.
Or you have to aim in one specific corner of the TV, otherwise it doesn't work.
That's just irritating.
Those things. Put it in your hand. Give it a feel. Anyway, plenty of inputs, another great one. 1 or 2 HDMI ports really doesn't cut it anymore. Also consider your legacy video needs. I'm seeing more and more new TVs that are getting rid of the old connections like S-video or composite video. So if you have that old VCR or an old product, make sure that you have ports on there to actually connect it to. Otherwise, you're going to have to probably buy some additional hardware. Always also look for a good return policy. It doesn't matter if you buy it online or from your local store. Make sure that you can bring it back if you need to swap it out. I've had problems with that before.
And make sure you don't have to pay for shipping if you send it or
totally.
or a restocking fee, which happens a lot actually in a lot of brick and mortar and online stores.
And I'll stop at number 10 just because I like lists of 10 anyway. Multimedia and networking in general for new TVs. This is a feature I've come to really appreciate. I can update many of the new TVs that offer internet connections on them. I can update them over the internet for new firmware updates and new feature updates, and some of the new universal plug and play and DLNA streaming to the TV. So I have that storage device on my network full of files. I can bring it right into the living room with no problem at all. That's a lot of stuff I like, but
oh my goodness,
hopefully it gives you something to think about when you're shopping.
One last thing we should point out.
Yeah.
When you're talking about like HD TVs now, you may think that a 55, 65-inch HD TV is much too large for your room. Because the resolution is so high, it actually functions a lot more like a computer monitor. You might find that a 50-inch TV actually looks a lot better 8 or 10 feet from you instead of like the 12 or 15 feet you think it might actually belong. So don't be surprised if you want a much bigger screen than you thought you did when you're taking a look at them in the store.
Awesome.
1080p. I love 1080p.
Go big.
Hey, Revision 3 has partnered up with the Association for Downloadable Media in an effort to get a better understanding of who is watching our show and how you feel about the advertising in the show. We put together a 10-minute online survey that'll help us ensure that we're delivering the best quality programming to you, our viewers. Do us a favor, help us out by going to www.revision3.com/survey to take the survey. And for those of you wondering, you will not be asked for any personal contact information. No salesman will call. We won't send you any email. Just please help us continue to, well, pay for the show, man.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of HD Nation. As always, we want to know what you think, so send your comments, questions, or suggestions to hdnation@revision3.com.
Or hang out with the other viewers in the HD Nation forums. You can find them at revision3.com/forum.
And head over to revision3.com/HDNation for show notes and links to everything we talked about on today's episode. You'll also find all the links to subscribe to the show, so if you're not getting the latest episodes of HD Nation delivered to your podcatcher, what are you waiting for?
That's right, people. Do us a favor, subscribe, watch, and tell your friends. Until next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Robert Heron.
And I'm Patrick Norton. We'll see you next week on HD Nation.